Depopulation, in simple words, is the substantial reduction in the population of an area. During the recent years, it has emerged as one of the world's most powerful social phenomenon. Low fertility rates, internal migration, and immigration are the main principal demographic forces that shape the onset and the pace of population decline in many countries, regions, and continents. Hello, this is Franko Egro from Euronews Albania in Tirana, and together with my colleagues from France, Bulgaria, Serbia, Romania, and Georgia, we'll focus on the main trends that characterize depopulation in these countries and further afield. I am joined here in the studio by Francois Chignac, editorial manager of branded affiliates Euronews and the director of Africanews, Andra Diaconescu, the editor-in-chief of Euronews Romania, Marina Vashakmadze, the editor-in-chief of Euronews Georgia, Bojan Brkic, the editor-in-chief of Euronews Serbia, and Marina Stoimenova, the editor-in-chief of Euronews Bulgaria. Welcome to Albania, and thank you all for coming to Euronews Albania. I am sure you will enjoy the Albanian sunny weather and our renowned hospitality. Thank you all for coming.
We already do. Thank you.
Thank you. Francois, I have the feeling that once you mention the word depopulation, you immediately think of Africa, a continent which, because of infinite reasons, has in the past and is still experiencing depopulation at an alarming rate. Am I right?
Yeah. Thanks for your question, Franco. Very clever question. I just have to bring, as a specialist of Africa, because I'm the director of Africanews, just a precision from Africa. There's two immigration from Africa: political immigration, because of people who leave Africa because of war, because of crisis, and there's economic immigration. When we speak about depopulation in Africa, I will just give you an example. Now, in the National Health Service in UK, there are more than 3,000 nurses who come from Ghana. So now Ghana faces a depopulation of health workers. It's the same with Botswana. It's the same with Nigeria. A recent report for the Youth Commons says that the number of health workers coming from Africa and who works for the National Health Service in UK jumped to 1.8 to 3.3. So the figures are very important. But what is the problem in Africa now? It's if you check the forecast, the sub-Saharan Africa will need more than 2 million health workers by 2013. But they will have a real gap, and they will have a lot of problems because all these nurses, all these doctors from Nigeria will be in UK. And all these persons not leave Africa because of economic issue. They receive proposition from the National Health Service. So that's depopulation.
Absolutely, and alarming figures. The decrease in population has been a constant trend in Georgia during the last few years. It is quite alarming, though, that in 2022, for the first time ever, the number of deaths exceeded the number of births by an impressive 7,000 people. As Euronews Georgia reports, the United Nations predict that the population of Georgia will reduce by 11% until 2050.
The decreasing population has been an unchanging tendency in Georgia for past few years. In 2022, number of deaths exceeded number of live births by 6,799. United Nations estimates that Georgia, a small country of 3.7 million people, might see its population reduced by 11% from until 2050. That is even though birth rate in Georgia is one of the highest in Europe.
The number of reproductive women is decreasing. There are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, in the 90s, sex-selective abortion was a big problem. Besides that, migration from Georgia was really high. Anecdotal evidence shows that migration has also increased recently, and it's mostly people of reproductive age who leave the country.
Demographic characteristics often vary from region to region, but virtually every country in the world is experiencing an aging population. Even though global population reached 8 billion in 2022, decrease in the rate of rise is evident. Situation is worsened by lack of accessible and high-quality childcare services in the country. Another big obstacle is poverty.
600,000 people are struggling to meet minimum wage. Of course, they will lack the motivation to have a high birth rate. Another factor is growing urbanization. There is correlation between country lifestyle and high birth rate.
This is indicated by UN surveys as well, according to which, in Georgia, women desire to have 3 children, but frequently are unable to do so due to social, economic, and various other problems.
The news story we just followed was crystal clear, but I wanted to ask you, Marina, about another dominant factor in as far as depopulation is concerned, immigration. Does it pose another serious threat to the population of Georgia?
Right, thank you so much for this question, and thank you for inviting us here. Yeah, sure, I guess this is the same for all of us here. I mean, I guess everybody will repeat it, and we mentioned in our story. But yeah, immigration because of problems inside Georgia. And, you know, immigration is the common problem, but we are talking now about immigration of female population, and that's, of course, this is the result of why the things are decreasing. But I will give you some small background because this is very important. Census in 1989, the population of Georgia was 4.9 or 7, something like that. So after that, on 2014, already after that, the decrease started. In 2014, it was already 3.7 because after the 19th, you know, the civil war in Georgia plus conflicts, you know, breakaway regions, and on 2014 it was impossible, you know, to have census in the breakaway regions, and this is also part of that, you know, decrease of population and immigration, of course, and plus, you know, what we call urbanization. It's not immigration, but this is very much in correlation because, you know, from mountainous regions, because of urbanization and difficult life on high mountains, are moving to cities, and this is, everybody knows that the birth rate, you know, in the rural areas are higher than in urban places and cities, and this influence as well. I mean, we can consider this is part of this problem.
Thank you very much, Marina. Immigration in Romania is affecting the very nucleus of the society, the family. Around 25% of the children in the country have one parent away from home as they leave their childhood. This figure becomes even more traumatic if you refer to the latest surveys published from Save the Children Foundation, as Euronews Romania reports.
Mario was 3.5 when his mother went to work in the United Kingdom. She couldn't take him with her. Mommy brought me up for 4 years and my grandmother for 4 years and 12 months. That is a total of 5 years she has brought me up now. Mario's grandmother, Emilia, is the one who now takes care of the little boy. His mother sends home between 300 and 400 euros per month. She used to tell me that she went straight into her room and cried out, "How can I cope? Which way should I turn? I miss the children too," but now she's got used to it. Mario is one of the nearly 1 million children in Romania whose parents went abroad, 250,000. That's also the estimated number of out-of-school children in Romania. Some of them miss school as a result of the lack of encouragement from home. In one village, in Călărași, though, a teacher has taken up the fight on behalf of vulnerable children. When she noticed that some pupils weren't coming to school, Miruna Șuțu went knocking on their doors. It's a very nice feeling to know that over the years you can train a child and that he will carry you forever in his heart. Andrea is 11 years old. There was a time when she needed to drop out of school altogether, but since Miruna came, things had turned out differently for her. What did you learn at school? Was it a good day? Andrea's mother goes abroad several times a year for work. It's all for her and her sisters. At those times, Miruna becomes more like a second mother. I love the teacher because when I came to her class, I didn't even know how to hold a pen in my hand. And thanks to the teacher, I learned how to do this. I go abroad twice a year to my husband and she stays with her older sisters. They take turns, one for a week, another for 1 week. It's very hard for me when I have to leave. Now Andrea is an A-prize student. She's a child who wanted to learn so much and ended up being a first-rate student. Nearly 184,000 children are totally deprived of direct parental care because either both parents or the parents supporting the family have gone abroad. Parents come home, on average, once a year, and almost 90% usually send money back home. Most go to work in Italy, Spain, Germany, France, or the United Kingdom. According to the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, around 6 million Romanians live abroad.
An exceptional angle to the story we are discussing about today, Andra. But to have a full picture, I wanted to ask you, what is the situation in Romania regarding the fertility rates versus the aging of the population?
Well, there are 3 layers of the story. These are the people who we presented in the material previously, and they come from the more defavorized layers, and they go abroad in order to have a bigger revenue. There are also the middle in the population who have like very good professionals, but they chose to go abroad to work because they earned much more than they did in Romania. And I'm talking here about teachers who went to be babysitters, or doctors or nurses who went to be doctors and nurses, and it made a huge damage to our system. Third, what is going on now is very, very interesting, and it's become like a trend for the past years, is that there are good professionals, they have good incomes, but they are not satisfied with the system that they live in. So they choose to work for corporations or IT and to go and live abroad in order for them to give a better school or a better health system for their children and for themselves. Even though in Romania they really live a good life. And to answer to the question that you were asking me, there is not a big gap. But that's why I said the context earlier, because it's not only in terms of how much people give birth, women give birth, or how much the population is decreasing because of that. It's a trend in the society, and I was talking to the head of the population system, who is doing a lot of social research. Yeah, and he was telling me that what is the challenge for the government now is just not to give some vouchers away in order to do fertility or something, because this is good, but this just tackles one person, a family, is not like for the whole system. They need to rethink how they will help the society. Because what is going on now? The trends in the society are like this. One, they choose to leave the country in order to live better in other countries for the system, even though they will miss families back home or Romania. Second, what is going on with the women?
they are not used to stay home like it happened 20, 30 years ago. They want to have a job, they want to have social life, they want to look good, and they also want to have children. Not at the 20s, not at the 26th. They want to have children in the 30s or in the 40s. So the society needs to rethink how the families are reshaping in order to help and to give them a better policy. And this we'll wait to see because, and I will finish with that, what show the forecast at this moment is that if nothing will happen in 2050, Romania will have 16 million people in population, and now there are 19.
Figures speak louder than words. Thank you, Andra.
Thank you also.
The latest census organized in the Republic of Serbia pointed out that the largest number of the abandoned buildings in the country are found in its southern and eastern part. Out of 50,000 apartments in total, the majority is to be found in the Nišava district. Meanwhile, as Euronews Serbia reports, the population of the municipalities of Svrljig, Crna Trava and Babušnica is getting older as the younger generation has simply left.
Abandoned houses, yards overgrown with grass, an increasingly common picture in the southeast of Serbia. The village of Radikina Bara, not far from Niš. The school and the shop have not been open for a long time, and there are fewer and fewer locals.
Before there were about 500, 600 people in the village. Now there are about 40 of us left.
And in the neighboring municipality of Gadžin Han, many villages are shutting down. 95-year-old Nikodije from Jaglice is one of only a few residents who live here permanently.
There were 4 of us last winter. People left, looking for a better life.
When was the last time a baby was born here?
23 years ago.
All the houses are abandoned. The one above fell. Houses fall. Everything falls. Before, we didn't have water or telephones. Now we have everything, but people leave.
Nešići are rare young people that you will find in Zaplanje villages. Her husband works. Katarina takes care of the children.
I am a child from the countryside. I love the countryside. I love nature. I think life here is healthier than in the city.
Other young people left. Why? Are there no living conditions here?
There is no school, mostly old people.
In the municipality of Gadžin Han, the number of inhabitants has decreased almost 5-fold since the middle of the last century. Now less than 6,000 people live here, almost 2,500 less than in the last decade.
We had several strong companies that employed more than 2,500 people in the economy. All of those companies have shut down. There was a lot of talk about the development of Southeast Serbia, but little was done.
Poor municipalities, he says, cannot do much without the help of a state. Agriculture alone cannot make a living here. Picturesque landscapes and untouched nature on the slopes of Suva mountain without more serious projects and investments are not enough to bring people back to this area.
Saddening images indeed, which can be found all over the Balkans and throughout the developing countries. I wanted to ask you, Bojan, about immigration. Which are the age groups that are leaving Serbia in search of a better life abroad, and what is the impact it is having on the society as such?
The age group obviously is a working age population, aged 25 to 55, in search of a better job and better life. There are 2 kinds of migration that we see in Serbia. One is Serbs moving out of the country, going abroad, usually to Western Europe. And there's also migration from the rural parts of the country into the urban centers, mainly to the capital of Belgrade. And there's a local joke in Serbia that by the year 2050, Serbia will have 5.8 million population, and out of that number, 5.8 million people will live in Belgrade. As you saw in our report, it means that the villages are abandoned, the rural way of life is disrupted, destroyed, and it's very unlikely that it's going to be re-inhabited anytime soon. So what are the consequences? There are many consequences. You already mentioned some of them. There is a lack of labor in Serbia already in many different areas, in agriculture, in construction, in healthcare, and we already see the import of labor from abroad. As citizens of Serbia move towards the West, some other people are coming to Serbia as a place where they can have a better life. So we have.
And they come from?
We have bus drivers from Sri Lanka, construction workers from Bangladesh, Cuba. We have doctors from Syria and many some African countries as well. So the number of them is increasing. They're coming to do seasonal work, but also and the government is relaxing immigration rules so they can stay more easily because the businesses demand new labor. So it's also changing the fabric of the society, and it is changing the quality of life in terms that if you have less doctors, if you have less engineers, if you have less skilled labor, then many things that we did easily before become problematic.
Thank you very much indeed, Bojan.
It's also the case in Romania.
I guess everywhere. I mean,
Absolutely.
we are talking like we consider the same as in our countries.
Absolutely, this is true. The population here in Albania is also shrinking. All the latest statistics reveal that the birth rates are declining. And this happens at a time when the young, the most vital and the most active age groups are leaving the country altogether, as Brunilda Tami of Euronews Albania reports.
Albania is shrinking with a fast pace. The number of resident inhabitants in the country is falling year by year, and experts blame immigration for the situation.
The biggest exodus Albanian had was during the 90s, when democracy came and there was mass immigration. The first census in 2001 registered 3,100,000 Albanians. The second one was held in 2011 and there were 2,800,000 people. It means that the migration quota was nearly 500,000. In the last 10 years, immigration has been fast-paced, and the new census scheduled for September 2023 will give us a clear view of how many people there are in Albania.
900,000 Albanians have left the country in the last 10 years towards countries of the European Union.
Based in the Eurostat data, 410,000 cases could be considered getaways, while the rest are asylum seekers or illegal crossings. The trend is very high, and these are just figures for EU countries. In the meantime, there are gateways to America, Canada and England.
In 70% of the cases, those who are leaving are young people up to 34 years old. Experts say that this is translated in less weddings and births that will bring to a further decline of the population.
If we had 1 million kids in 1999, today we have less than 400,000 kids at school age. The number of births that has fallen into these critical levels is connected to the immigration. They who leave Albania are of a reproductive age.
Births are keen to fall since a long time ago. According to the Albanian Statistics Institute, during 2022, they fell by 9.3% compared to 2021. Apart from the growing infertility, another cause is the economy.
1 in 6 couples has difficulties in reproducing or bringing a child to life. Young couples have difficulties in planning pregnancies because they think of the huge cost of growing and educating a child.
If getaways and births will continue by this pace, the United Nations predict that in the year 2100, Albania, as well as other countries in the region, will have a contraction of the population.
Slowly, we are running out of back announcements here. Bulgaria is not an exception either. It is facing serious problems. According to the latest findings of the National Statistic Institute, during the last decade, the country has lost more than 800,000 people, and unfortunately, the trend remains a negative one. Euronews Bulgaria report has more.
The difference between the death rate and the birth rate in Bulgaria is more than twice, according to the National Statistics Institute. The average age of first birth is 29 years. According to demographer and lecturer at the country's oldest university, Georgi Bardarov, this has its explanation, at least in the last 3 years.
I was largely influenced by the COVID pandemic and the excessively high mortality rate in Bulgaria in this period of time, in which we took the first places in the whole world. Of course, immigration has been constant over the whole period, had also had an influence, so that for the large number of the declining population, the mortality rate is the most important.
Nearly 27,000 Bulgarians left the country in 2021. 48.5% of them are men. Every second immigrant is between 20 and 39 years old. Since the year 1990, the official number of people living outside of the country is over 1.6 million.
On average, Bulgaria's annual decline is between 50 to 60,000 people, as a result of which we expected between the two censuses to be around 600 to 650,000 people, but in fact the decline is 844,000 people exactly, which is a strikingly large number.
Vaglevci is a village in the northern part of the country. In the past, about 2,000 people lived here, now 53. Jordan Stanchev lives here with his wife.
From here up to the rest station, there are also houses, but they are empty. Here is this one, and it will be breakdown already. No doctor, no shop, we have nothing here.
Many villages are about to disappear, and young people are migrating to bigger cities as a step before finally leaving Bulgaria and heading to the UK, Germany, Spain or elsewhere.
A report that spoke loudly and clearly. I would like to ask you though, Marina, what is the situation regarding the ratio between the birth rates versus the aging population within Bulgaria?
We're not doing great, sadly, as we can see from this conversation. It's the same in the whole region, on the Balkans. But to give you the details, I'm going to open the statistics. So the numbers are really worrying. Like less than 57,000 children were born in 2022 versus almost 190,000 people died. This is double. And the thing you mentioned in the beginning, in the past 10 years, the depopulation in Bulgaria is up to more like 800,000 people less. So we need a debate, a really strong debate, obviously not only in Bulgaria, but on the Balkans. And it should be the society and the government, because we need government policy. Why are women deciding not to give birth to babies? Is it only economical reasons? Why are we waiting so much? We want to make a career, but then we are like 40 years old, it's too late, and some of the women cannot do it because of healthy reasons. Or there is a really interesting, for me, new wave. I don't know how is it in your countries, but I think in Bulgaria there is something like highly educated young people who think and who says, okay, should I give birth to a child in this horrible world, for example? Why should I do it? It's not necessary. If it in the past, if you don't give birth to a child, you are not a whole person, if you don't create a family. Now it's different. But why is it? That's why I say we need a strong debate. And of course, last but not less important,
it is a cultural approach as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And the emigration, last but not less. People are leaving the country, same as the population in your country. They go to Germany, France, Austria for economical reasons. But if we don't have a government policy, because they give birth to children, but these children are citizens to other countries. So they visit Bulgaria to see their grandparents, but when their grandparents are not there anymore, what is the reason to come back to Bulgaria?
Absolutely.
It's not the nature, although it's the best, I think, on the Balkans. It's one of the most beautiful natures, but this is not enough. That's why I said we need government policy. And sadly, I repeat, it's in all our countries on the Balkans.
Absolutely. The same phenomenon is present everywhere.
Yeah, and policy is important, if I may, because in Georgia, and I'm sure in your countries as well, sometimes I wanted to mention the gender profile of this problem. I mean, young woman in Georgia sometimes has to decide what to do, you know, do the career, work, or just have a kid.
Or family.
And this is right, and this is related to, you know, health issues, as you mentioned, and also, you know, social life, like accessible kindergartens and these kind of things, because, you know, all these things are influencing the problem.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Marina. Immigration, as we all have constantly reported, remains a complex issue that the governments of the countries of origin and those in the receiving West have to face and solve constantly. But there is another dimension to it, the tragic one, as highlighted by the most recent event registered only a few days ago in Greece, where a ship capsized and tens of human lives were lost. My final question to you, Francois, is what do you make of the situation presented here so far, and what can you say about the trends in the short time perspective?
Never underestimate this epidemic. 2 years ago, the world faced a very strong epidemic with COVID-19. Balkans face a slow epidemic with depopulation. So we need a real policy, like my neighbors underline. We saw very clever, very well done report from Serbia, from Georgia, from Bulgaria, and from Romania, and from Albania too. That shows that ghost village hold people. There's a very famous a European writer from Italy say, if you create ghost land, if you create ghost country, you will have aggressivity between population after. You will have war in Europe. We don't want that. We don't want a Europe, a rich Europe and a poor Europe. So never underestimate this epidemic in the Balkan. Depopulation, it's an epidemic. And politics, Europe has to face that.
An appeal to the politicians in the Balkans and in the EU. Thank you, Francois. Thank you, Francois, for your answer, which brings us to the end of this program. My sincere thanks go to Francois Chignac, editorial manager of branded affiliates Euronews and the director of Africanews, Andra Diaconescu, editor-in-chief of Euronews Romania, Marina Vashakmadze, editor-in-chief of Euronews Georgia, Bojan Brkic, editor-in-chief of Euronews Serbia, Marina Stoimenova, editor-in-chief of Euronews Bulgaria. Until the next program, a very warm goodbye from all of us here in the studio and from me, Franko Egro, from Euronews Albania here in Tirana.